happy Super Bowl season to all who celebrate.
went under.
From FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like us, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seats on the couch, grabbing your favorite snacks, and placing some super bets. And FanDuel has a ton of different ways to help you end the season with not just one W, but 2 or 3 or more. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. Right now, new customers join today and get $200 in bonus bets if their first bet of $5 or more wins. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to sign up. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Our second winning ticket today comes from C-Dub711. He had a 15-leg parlay on the NFL games this past Sunday. $5 won him $290.69. Very nice bet there from C-Dub711, but $5 into $290 on a 15-leg same-game NFL parlay. Darius Garland made his return to the court last night in the Cavs win over the Pistons. Donovan Mitchell went superhuman to essentially steal the win. But, guys, let's start with DG first. What'd you see from the Cavs all-star point guard in his return to action? And it's worth noting that he played 20 minutes but was not on the court for the final 6-7 minutes when the Cavs made their triumphant return.
We still don't know that there was a minutes restriction, right? No one said anything.
I thought I read that there was.
I thought they read.
Okay, so that might be.
I read Joe Varden's article this morning.
Because before the game, I hadn't heard anything about a minutes restriction, which surprised me because there's no way he's going to come back and play his first game in the length of time he's been out.
No, there was. I didn't make
so,
a thing. Yeah.
I think if there was a minutes restriction, I won't read too much into the fact that they used his minutes up before the 6.5-minute mark. But here's my takeaway, and it's not really directly on Darius Garland. They looked different last night, and not in a good way.
No, I mean they had to get a superhuman effort from Donovan Mitchell in the fourth quarter. He scored 20 in the fourth quarter.
20 in the fourth, 45
to
overall.
beat the worst team in the NBA.
I think they are the worst team, aren't they? Yeah.
It just, once again, I wanted to see exactly how they would play. I watched this game, and I had a microscope on. And sometimes in basketball, the thing that can really, pull the wool over your eyes is points. Like, because somebody get an amount of points, you feel like that's effectiveness, right? But it doesn't take into account how you got those points. A couple things I noticed, the tempo slowed down a little bit.
I thought so too.
There weren't as spread out. There was a lot of what I would call clogging in the lane. There were times where Jarrett Allen would get the ball, but Evan Mobley was around. His guy comes over, and now it's just congested. There's less Sam Merrill on the floor. Wide open threes.
He didn't play like the last 15. He barely played in the second half.
Max Strus looks like he's lost. I don't know. Listen, he didn't even. I was confused what he was doing. And the overall defense. When you let them, a team like the Pistons, shoot that high of a percentage, you couldn't get stops when you needed them. It just seemed like it was a completely different team, and it was a team that was reminiscent of last year, where they play these games where, yes, it looks like these guys are winning. You get Mobley with 15 and Allen with 12 or 13, and got Darius Garland gets his 22 and Mitchell gets his 27. But that's the same type game we was playing last year. It ain't as open, it's not as flowing, and it's just like it strains a little bit. It's like, I just saw it looked like two different teams that I've been watching the last couple of days.
It's the first time I've watched the Cavs in the past month where I have said to myself, I'm not a fan of this style of basketball.
Who's that style again?
I said earlier that sometimes there's addition by subtraction. And what that means is what it says. You could lose a part and suddenly become better. It's oxymoronic. It doesn't seem like it's possible. But I think last night was subtraction by addition. And I don't know if this was it's
the first game back for Garland. He's getting used
so I
to
want
other
to
guys.
see it more.
Yeah.
But I was troubled watching it. I was like, just let's turn back the clock to a week ago when I thought they were playing their best basketball. I thought their win against Milwaukee, to me, was the epicenter, was the apex of what they are and who they can be. And by the way, that's a measuring stick in the East. They might not be the best team in the East, but they're, I think, inarguably in the top 3. And they looked great in that game. Last night against the Pistons, there were just moments where I was afraid they were going to lose the game.
Oh, no. Fourth quarter, I was like, oh, they're going to mess around and lose
It
this
felt
game.
like it was going to be one of those games you look back on later and say, how'd they lose that?
You wonder if it's, part of it might have been the Pistons suck and they didn't work hard enough defensively.
That's possible.
You see a team with that many losses,
but it
maybe
was
it's
just
hard to be motivated.
Not even what the Pistons were doing to us. It was what we were doing. Like a lot of times you'll lose a game because the defense is doing something to you that you just weren't prepared for. I felt like all our wounds were self-inflicted. What was Garland's plus-minus last night?
Once again, first game back, plus-minus is not a perfect indication.
I understand.
Everyone who played yesterday for the Cavs, they're plus-minus. Because I think there's a trend that's at least worth noting. Not making a big deal out of it, but I do think it's interesting at least to note. Once again, one game back, minute sample size.
Too small to make any rash decisions.
This is every Cav who played last night, they're plus-minus. Evan Mobley, -4. Jarrett Allen, +19. Darius Garland, -16.
Oh, my God.
Donovan Mitchell, +22. Max Strus, +5. That's your starting lineup. On the bench, Dean Wade, -7. Niang, even 0. Okoro, +18.
Wow.
Karis LeVert, +7. And Sam
Okoro's
Merrill,
always had
-9.
a pretty good plus-minus, hasn't he?
And we talk about these guys coming back. Garland helps in certain facilities, in certain aspects. Mobley helps in certain aspects. What they do with Okoro, he's become not in the same level of valuable as Mitchell and Allen, but he brings something that they can't replicate with anyone else.
I agree.
I can't believe I'm saying this after everything we talked about with him last
No,
year.
I get it, but he's different
He
this
needs
year.
to be on the court.
Shout out.
All
I
their best
agree with
lineups
that.
have Isaac Okoro on the court, and his transformation, and usually, he's drafted at 19 after 1 year at Auburn. They usually make a jump in year 1 to 2, then 2 to 3, and then that's kind of the player you think you're going to become. It's taken him a little longer, and you want to say it's on the coaching staff for not developing him fast enough, just his personality, whatever. Who knows? He's turned into a really valuable NBA player.
I agree.
And
Does that
all
teach
their
us
best
a lesson?
lineups. What do you say, Bull?
Does that teach us a lesson maybe that all of us, myself included certainly, need to be more patient with Mobley, even though Mobley was a higher pick, that some guys, and Mobley was really young, and some guys take longer to develop?
Just one thing, and I'll let you guys chime in.
Possibly.
Even when they drafted Okoro, his ceiling was nowhere near where you thought the ceiling Mobley could be.
Sure.
Okoro was never drafted to be
not
the
even the
franchise
same.
guy. Mobley was drafted, looked at as a guy who could be the centerpiece of a championship team. So I think they're different. in that
Agreed.
realm.
I wasn't trying to insinuate
No, but
that, but
both point
just
is-
that guys take time to develop. Whether,
Yeah. Oh,
whether you
that's totally
expect them to
fair.
be
Totally
decent, good, or great, guys develop at different, on
different rates.
clocks.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Okoro right now is their best defensive player. Okoro is the best on-the-ball defender. He can cover ones, twos, threes. He does not give up strength.
It's versatile, man.
He's knocking down to some extent that corner three. He gets in the transition. He finishes on the break. He brings energy. He's the guy where you look at it and say, okay, he allows Mitchell to do other things, like let me play the passing lane. Donovan Mitchell right now is leading, was one of the guys, he's getting almost 2 steals a game, in I think last month, and he allows him to play a style of basketball where he's not guarding those guys. When Okoro's in the game, he don't got to guard the best guys on the perimeter.
Yeah.
But when Garland is, and you got Donovan Mitchell, now Donovan Mitchell is guarding the shooting guards.
And that takes away from his offense. Right?
Takes away from his
energy
offense
on the
game.
defensive side.
It's just tough. I know, and it's a small sample size, and it's not like this is horrible, and they can't figure. They won a basketball game, but one of the things with the Cavs is they must figure out these rotations. They have to do it. If JB is going to get to the second round of this team, because I believe talent alone is good enough to compete with some of these teams. But I agree with Jay. The top of the food chain at the way they played was how they played at Milwaukee. Milwaukee was at full strength. Fresh Giannis, fresh Damian Lillard. They had all their pieces and parts out there. Middleton played. But guess what? The Cavs came out there and they played their game. They spread the ball around. They moved it. Donovan was at the tip of the spear and it was working. I'm not sure if they can play that style if Darius is on the ball.
But, okay, Mitchell was still on the ball a lot last night.
Darius
Not as much.
Darius had the ball a lot. I mean, he
And that's what my fear was. They each take up a lot of oxygen in the room,
Well,
And I just felt it was, forget the score for a second.
yeah.
If you were just watching the game and you were comparing it to how they had played
Right,
the
it
Friday
did-
before,
yeah.
the ball movement wasn't there. I agree with you that there were too many times where there was a clog in the middle and it was created by them. Mm-hmm. And I think, Mike, this is a theory I have. I'm just curious. To me, I think all teams operate better with a lot of spacing on the floor. And it felt like the Cavs over the last month leading into the Milwaukee game had really sort of solved that Rubik's Cube as to what the rotation needed to be, the 4 out, 1 in, and everything was open. Passing lanes were open. The middle was open.
Right.
And last night I was just like, wow, it's like we undid all of that.
But guys, ultimately, if this team is going to be successful in the playoffs, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley have to be a part of it. They're better players than some of these other guys. So
Yes.
The coach has to figure out how to make them work within that system. We're not just going to put Darius Garland on the bench. He's a much better player than these guys. Mike, what do you say?
No, Bull's right. At the end of the day, the Cavs' ceiling has those 4 guys playing a majority of minutes as opposed to.
Well, then they better
Niang
figure
and
it
everything
out.
else. And
because they look better without those two.
It's one game. If they play, they play tonight in Memphis. They play on Saturday.
We're
They got a
saying
couple
it's one
games
game,
coming up.
but let's compare.
Well, I got a stat for you that's going to help
I know
your
it's how
point
few
here.
the
No, I
games
got a
they
stat for
played
you
together.
here.
Okay.
So, and I was curious as you were talking, Jay, the amount of field goals made to assists in the game. So the percentage of made field goals to assists.
That's a big stat, I think.
So yesterday, now granted they scored a lot more. They scored 128 yesterday. So
Yeah.
as much as the offense may have looked stagnant, they put up 130.
No, I
essentially.
know.
So it's not
but
like
it was
numbers are
also
bad.
it was Detroit.
Yeah, I understand all the context. They had 26 assists yesterday on 47 made field goals.
Okay.
So 26, 47, that's over 50%.
Yes.
And I just went back to I can't pull this up. This is game-by-game box scores. Against the Clippers on Monday, 28 assists on 42 made field goals.
See, I think that's the formula.
Now, that is the peak, but you go back one more game to the Milwaukee game. In my head, I was like, they shared the ball great that game. You ready for this?
Yeah.
38 made field goals, 20 assists. It's actually the lowest percentage of assists to made field goals.
Barely.
I mean, it's pretty much the same.
It's almost identical. In
Well,
fact.
It's
Clippers
almost
is way
identical
over
to what they
50.
did yesterday. So
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I was thinking 48. Sorry, you're right. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Scratch that.
It's,
Scratch
they're
that.
all.
So,
They're
but-
all.
yeah,
all similar.
Well, the Clipper one was
Clipper one
way better
way
than the other
above.
two.
Yeah.
Clipper one was great, and that was again like the Milwaukee and the Clipper game to me was the best 2-game stretch I've seen the Cavaliers look since last regular season.
Man, I go back and watch Golden State, man, and I watch Steve Kerr, and the way they are savants. They're a genius the way they run this stuff. Like when they guys get in the game, they got 3 or 4 plays we running for Steph. They got 3 or 4 plays they running for Clay. We got 3 or 4 plays for Wiggins, right? Whether it's pin downs, whether it's like they change the way that they play based on who's on the floor. It seems a lot with the Cavs. When Merrill comes in the game, I need to get Merrill a shot. You see what I'm saying? Like when I grew up, the point guard used to call that. Point guard come up to court. Hey, we want to get Mobley some action. Let's just figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Sam Merrill on the court, he didn't hit 2 in a row. We're gonna run that same down screen when we hit it to him.
I think they have to spend the next, we're at the end of December, so you got
3 months.
January. You got 2.5 months till the playoffs start,
Yeah.
right? So they have to spend that time, now that everybody's healthy again, figuring out how to cut down the rotation because nobody's playing 10, 11 guys
Doesn't
in the playoffs.
that come at the peril of a guy like Sam Merrill?
Well,
who-
maybe it shouldn't. We're going to talk more about Sam Merrill in a minute.
That's a
Maybe he
great
should be
jumping
one of
off
those
point,
8
Bull.
guys.
Yeah.
But you can't just cut out Garland and Mobley. They're too talented. And even though, yes, they've played better without them, in the long run, it's the regular season. And we saw last year that the regular season meant nothing when the playoffs started. And so I think the way the balance is keeping those shooters in there, like Merrill, who's the best shooter on the team, and finding a way to use Darius Garland and Evan Mobley in the system that's succeeding, finding a balance. It's not going to be exactly the same, but they've got to be able to put it all together if they're going to win in the playoffs.
I agree with that, but here's
Yeah.
my fear. I know we keep saying it's one game. We saw them together to start the season. They did not look good, and that was for an extended stretch. We saw them all together last year, And although it worked in the regular season, as we've said a million times, it's almost a different sport once the calendar flips to the postseason.
Right, so we don't know.
They haven't figured it out, and they've had a lot of time to do it.
Right, but we don't know if the way they've won the last month and a half is going to win in the postseason either.
We don't, but we know the way they won last year in the regular season ain't it either. So you got to try something new.
Well, but just because you're bringing Mobley and Garland back doesn't mean you're going to play the same old way. You're right, they played poorly early in the season, no disagreement there. But
so we got to try something
my
new.
assumption is, and if I'm wrong, then okay, then that's probably stupid by the Cavs. My assumption is, well, now that these guys are back and now they know how well they played without them, well, we have to figure out something in between. Well, we were playing great without them. We weren't playing well. We don't want to go that style because that's bad. We can't go 100% this most recent style because we got to fit these guys in. They're great players.
Sure.
How do you find it in between where
that's where the coach comes in.
We play a style that's maybe similar to what we've been doing, a little different, not what it was last year or early in the season, but where we could get everybody to excel and reach our peak.
JB's problem is a good one. JB's problem is a good one. You've got a lot of great pieces. You've got a lot of great ingredients. Now make a wonderful dish.
Last year we talked about they had no depth. They got a lot of depth right now.
And we're going to talk about that in 1 sec. Bull, last point to what you said, then we'll move on to Sam Merrill. In the playoffs, when you play a team potentially 7 times in a row, matchups play a huge role in the style of basketball you can play. We know the Cavs have at least shown us they can play a 4-out, 1-in. We've seen last year they won with 2 bigs. They at least have a little versatility to play some matchup games if they want.